Welcome, everybody, to a brand new live episode of Game Time here today, an NBA free agency special episode. And if I'm talking the NBA, there's really no one else I'd rather have on the show, to be honest with you, than my co-host of the Top 10, but the host of Droppin' Dimes, the great Matt Knost. Matt, how are you? You must be going insane over the last 2 or 3 days with all the crazy deals that are happening here.
Well, the nice thing is, NBA agents are so amazing in that as soon as the deadline happens, somehow they manage to get these complex contracts worked out in less than a minute.
In a minute.
It's amazing every year. Last year was even more so. It was like incredible contracts, like 1201.
Yeah.
But there have been some holdouts that have taken longer than anticipated thus far. So that's kind of interesting. The John Collins just finalizing today. Kawhi technically hasn't re-signed with the Clippers yet.
Yeah.
Dennis Schroeder kicking the can around, seeing if anybody's willing to give him $1.
What's that all about? I mean, we're going to get into all of that, of course, but you mentioned Dennis Schroeder. I mean, the Lakers are hanging around, signing all their old buddies to come play with them. This feels like Miami Heat or the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's like the LeBron 3.0, signing the old guys to come hang out for one more last run. He did that in the past with James House and these other guys that would come and be on the team. Now you've got this other situation going on, but somehow they can't sign or they won't sign Dennis Schroeder. What do you think? Do you think he'll end up on the Lakers?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Although, I mean, they're between LeBron, AD, and Russell, they're already at almost $30 million.
That's insane.
I know, for the three of them, and the cap is at 112 for next year. So once you add in Marc Gasol, boom, you're already in repeater tax because they're over the cap from last year. And then they get all these guys on minimums with THT on that 3-year deal. So they just don't have the money. I mean, technically they could. They have his rights, so they're allowed to go over the cap to re-sign him. But
yeah,
I mean, as everybody was dragging him for before, he should have signed that $84 million extension that they offered him because no one's going to come close to touching that.
Yeah.
So he's more than likely going to have to sign a 1-year deal with somebody to rehabilitate his image in the hopes that next year he can get his 3 to 4 year deal. So, yeah.
Who was that center a few years ago or power forward who didn't sign the initial deal and then ended up applying his trade for $4 million at somewhere for a year? I can't remember the guy's name, but he'd had this massive deal on the table and then turned it down thinking there'd be a market for him because all these other bigs had gotten signed the year before with this crazy contracts, and then there was nothing for him, and he ended up signing for I think it's Nerlens Noel.
I was about to say, I believe you're talking about the New York Knicks' own Nerlens Noel, who just re-signed with them for 3 years, $32 million, which is a little high. I mean, granted, in a world where Steph Curry's going to be making $50 million in the very near future.
God, yeah,
I know. He, to me, at least, is worth it. Jimmy Butler making $50 million. That's kind of pushing the boundaries of. There's only really 8-10 truly supermax guys, but a bunch of guys get supermax deals, and I don't give a shit, man. Get the money if you can.
Right.
So that $11 million and change for Nerlens isn't egregious, but seems like an awful lot when the guy only has a couple true skills.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah.
Well, we're going to get to all of that. We're going to break down or look at some of these deals that have come down and maybe go team by team for a couple of the big ones, and then maybe touch on some of the other free agents that have signed, like Kemba Walker going to the Knicks, as Matt mentioned, what happened with Atlanta. Collins re-signed, but also Trae Young giving him the max extension as well, working through that. But as we go along, the Streamlabs Super Chats are open, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to send in some support for what we do here on the Outlaw Nation channel, but also send in some questions and thoughts about NBA free agency, then feel free to send them along as Matt and I discuss it over the next hour and a half or so. Matt, we look at the Lakers right now. Let's just start there. I mean, Russell Westbrook on this massive trade with the Washington Wizards joined the Lakers here. There's a lot of people who are perplexed about this. The Wizards got Kyle Kuzma, KCP, Montrezl Harrell, and the 22nd overall pick in the draft, in this past draft. Then they traded that to get Avery Holiday. But the Lakers also got 2 second-round picks in 2024 and 2028, I believe, from the Wizards. And Ted Leonsis had no love lost for Russell Westbrook, comparing him to Alex Ovechkin, who he just re-signed to a massive contract. He said that you got to look at Russell's track record here. Everywhere he goes, he wants to be traded right after he gets there, or a couple of years after he gets there. And the same thing happened here with Washington. He did take us to the playoffs. I mean, but can you really brag about an 8th seed the way we got in there? I don't know. But going to Los Angeles here, how does this make any sense when the guy can't shoot threes? His explosiveness has gone down a little bit, and his defense is not something he's really known for. So how is this an upgrade in any other way other than possibly the offense on an assist side of things?
Well, that's what I mean, this is a pure defense for offense trade-off. They lose KCP and Caruso to my Bulls, two guys who are defensive stalwarts for them, to get Russ, who, he can get steals, but he also gambles, especially late in games, and it can bite you in the ass. And for a guy that doesn't shoot well from three, you lose KCP. Technically, he has the same percentage as Marc Gasol, but he shoots a higher volume, so he's their best three-point shooter. Yeah. So you try and fill it in the margins with the Kent Bazemore's, Wayne Ellington's, Carmelo Anthony. But, this team is old as shit. Yeah. The average age is 33 point something or other, which makes them the oldest in the league by far, and the oldest, if it maintains, if nobody else, geriatrics their roster, the oldest of the past like 15 to 20 years. Like they're fucking old. If you take THT and none off this team, like they have nobody under the age of 28, I believe. Right. But they get a 37-year-old, 3 36-year-olds, a couple 35-year-olds, a couple 32-year-olds or 33-year-olds. Like, dude, this team is old. Yeah. As you say, they welcome Dwight Howard back to the Lakers, the third time here. Trevor Ariza is back, Wayne Ellington, Kent Bazemore. Then you add that Russell Westbrook, and then, of course, Carmelo Anthony, who just signed here. So finally, LeBron and Carmelo. I mean, Matt, we've lived long enough to see LeBron and Carmelo come in on opposite sides of the spectrum as young players wanted to establish themselves, and now in the twilight of their careers coming together to play on the same team. Chris Paul, I feel like Chris Paul's like looking longingly over to LA, and if it had been able to work out, I wonder if he would have jumped from the Suns, but kind of made his own grave when he increased the number to 38 as the head of the Players Association so he could sign that max extension with the Suns. So in a way, he'd be taking less money to go play for LA if he was going to go and be a part of that. But you look at this team now, you're right. It's an old team, but can LeBron and AD, can they pull it off for 1 year? Because this feels, like I said, just like LeBron has done in numerous stops, bringing the old guys in, the veterans in, to give them a little bit of playing time and some assistance and take some pressure off of him. Are there enough bodies here to get them into the finals and to win the finals overall against a Brooklyn Nets team that's also still loaded up as well? Well, come buyout market and all that, there's still going to be a destination that guys are more than likely going to go to. So they'll be able to get somebody else to add to this roster. They're going to have to manage minutes because the team is this old. Yeah. You have a few individuals that they're going to rely on who are injury prone, and AD, and now LeBron, 2 out of the past 3 seasons has missed significant time for injuries, which is kind of anomalous for LeBron, but given his age and mileage, more than likely this is going to be something they really need to keep an eye on. Yeah. So if you're going to throttle down the minutes for your 2 primaries, either you're going to hand the keys to Westbrook or do some amalgam of all these other individuals, but is that going to be enough to get them through the West, at the very least, to get like an 8th seed? And is that going to be enough where you're not going to have home court at any point within, the playoff run? Hypothetically, if anybody could do it, I guess it would be LeBron, but I don't know. It's just getting so many older guys, and that's all they could afford once you go out and trade Westbrook and you hamstring yourselves when you if sacrifice this much cap space. So who is their closing lineup going to be? It's the 3 of them, and then who? Right. They're going to have to put shooters out there. LeBron will be the primary, I guess, ball handler. Yeah. But Carmelo, Bazemore, Wayne Ellington, are you really going to rely on these guys to win a championship? I don't know. I mean, we just saw Milwaukee win a championship with Drew Holiday and with God damn it, what's his Middleton? Name? Yeah, with Chris Middleton, but and some role players behind them, but not really strong role players. I mean, you could argue Russell Westbrook, LeBron, AD, anything after that, as long as they're decent players, you're okay to be able to win a title, judging from what we saw with Giannis
and Middleton and Drew Holiday. But then again, I don't know if I'd compare Drew Holiday to Russell. Drew Holiday seems like a bit more complete player, a younger player, obviously better on defense, not the best on offense overall throughout the playoffs. But I mean, there could be enough here to squeak past the line, or this is LeBron during that final Cleveland year where he was trying to get everybody, and then halfway through the season made them trade for a bunch of other players. And they did get to the finals, but only to get absolutely swept out. So this is dangerous, because then what's LA going to do after this, man? I mean, this pretty much strips the cupboard bare, and maybe AD is the only one left standing.
Yeah, they got nothing. I mean, they're putting all their chips in to get to 18 championships, because that's what they really care about, which is surpassing the Celtics to be the all-time winningest. And LeBron's window is legitimately right now.
Oh yeah. 1,000%.
After the next season or two, it's over. He's no longer, and it's impressive that he's managed to make it this far. But if they don't do it, they have nothing left. Yeah. I mean, their best trade asset at that point is, if you're not going to ship out AD, which they're not going to do,
right,
is either going to be Westbrook and his contract getting moved again, or like someone like Taylor Horton Tucker. They don't have any draft picks. I mean, second rounders don't carry any weight.
Yeah.
So it's championship or it's nothing.
Right. Right.
Which I guess on some level is what every franchise should be doing. But I don't know. The Lakers are in a very specific position because they can always attract guys to this market.
Yeah, so. I'm still, Matt, and maybe I'm an old school guy. Like, I'm still stuck in that mindset of Showtime, that mindset of the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, even that mindset of the Kobe Lakers with Lamar Odom and Pau Gasol. Like, that felt like a team year to year that could contend, right? This feels like the LeBron blueprint all over again. And to have it being done on such a prestigious franchise like the Lakers, it just surprises me. Because you've got the Miami Heat. We'll get to the Miami Heat in a little bit here, but the Miami Heat are almost consistently in the conversation to get into the playoffs. Maybe not to win a title, but certainly consistently in the conversation to get to the playoffs with a fantastic coach like Spoelstra there every year. This feels like the Lakers are reducing themselves a little bit to a smash and grab type of team, like the Florida Marlins in the Major League Baseball, or teams that kind of just put a stack together of great players for 1 year and then poof, nothing else. So it just seems odd to me the Lakers would do this and essentially hamstring their future just after they'd recovered from the Kobe situation. There's only so many free agents out there that are eventually going to want to come to LA when you, in my opinion, when you show that that's the kind of approach you have here.
But I mean, from a superstar perspective, everybody else in the league looks at the Lakers and once again, Los Angeles is the number one destination for all NBA players. And B, the Lakers are willing to pull out all the stops if they really feel like you are a true number one.
Right.
To put as many guys as they possibly can around you. Now, they had the luxury when they went out and got AD. They had this wealth of young guys plus picks still they hadn't shipped out.
Yes.
So they're going to be in the unenviable task of trying to do this without having all that. And you know, their best case scenario is to end up like the Brooklyn Nets after they shipped out everything and they just took off guys from the scrap heap and built up. But the Lakers aren't designed to do that. The Lakers are designed to be, their fan base won't, subsist on, hey, we're a quality team. Like it's championship or nothing. I'm already getting insufferable texts nonstop since free agents started from all Laker fans I know saying we're champions. It's done. Why even play the season? It's like, oh God.
Really?
And, oh yeah.
My God. That makes no sense to me.
But nonstop. I got one, less than an hour ago.
Wow.
But that's what their fans are. It's we should be number one at all times. It's like whenever a disgruntled star is out there and then Lakers Twitter, well, we should go out and get it. It's just like, okay, design that for me. I don't see how that's possible.
Yeah.
But if anybody can do it. So if they don't have the draft picks, so long as they have the money, they can still go out and attract guys. Can they put a championship around it or a championship contender around them is another question. Yeah. You need young guys on cheap contracts to do that. And if you have no draft picks, boy, that's going to be tough to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing, it was crazy. Alex Caruso was willing to come back. He said reports are saying for less money. So do they feel like Caruso was kind of a star last year for this team. Do they feel like, well, we're going to bring in these veterans, proven veterans, I know Dwight Howard wasn't necessarily a big part of them winning a title, but he did win a title with them. Ariza won a title with them years ago under the Kobe Lakers. So do you I mean, like, do you think they tossed away a little bit of depending on the youth? And they certainly gave up on Kuzma. I mean, is that the last of that crew that was there? The young guys that were there, is that the last of them that lingered around? It was Kuzma, right? He's the last of them.
I think on the current roster, I think THT is the only one that was drafted by
Los Angeles, right? Yeah.
To give you an idea, and the Caruso, so he, Bulls offered 4 years, and it ends up being about $9.5 million per year. So he said the Lakers, I'll do 3 for 10, and they came back with 7, so that's why he left. But yeah, I figured they would keep him of all their potential free agents out there. He's just doesn't mind if he doesn't shoot. He's willing to hustle, willing to, he's a good defensive player.
Yeah.
He can come in off the bench. He plays well with LeBron and has LeBron's respect. I figure if you're willing to go over for anybody, it'd be somebody like him. And THT, always assumed because he's 20 years old that they were going to re-sign him. Yeah. And the rest was negotiable on the roster. But yeah, once I saw Ramona put that out there that he was willing to come back for less, and then the Lakers offered him $3 million under what he felt he deserved, and the market bore out his belief, about $10 million per.
Absolutely. What about Malik Monk and Kendrick Nunn? Do you like these additions? Do you think this makes them a little more dangerous than we might think, seeing the old guys showing up, having this kind of younger approach to things? And Malik, of course, will probably spell Russell Westbrook through most of his time during the next season. But do you think this is a nice move for them overall?
Potentially. So Malik Monk finally looked good last year.
Yes.
It's been a up and down, mostly down since he was drafted. And then for a long time, it was look at all the guys drafted around him. Yeah. Charlotte screwed up once again.
Right.
And that was the storyline. And finally last year, it's like he started to make some things happen. So potentially this is a nice trajectory. Plus it's a 1-year deal for Malik. So if he can get the playing time, then he's just trying to get himself into a longer term contract after this season. And then Kendrick Nunn, if Miami Twitter is to be believed, because I've watched quite a bit of him, but I haven't sat with him for an entire season because it's not my team. I'll do that with the Bulls, but according to them, he is great and frustrating simultaneously. But he is the backup, so you're not relying on him in a primary position,
right?
And for his contract, I think it's 2 years, $10 million.
Yeah.
It's a great contract for a young guy who's going to be hungry and wants to prove himself.
Yeah, this is the lineup, and I guess I misspoke here. Malik Monk would probably spell Kent Bazemore as a shooting guard. Kendrick Nunn would be the one spelling Russell Westbrook as a point guard there. Yeah, so here's your starters right now, at least as a silver screen and roll has it here. Russell Westbrook starting at point guard, Kent Bazemore, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Marc Gasol. And then behind them, Dwight Howard at center, Carmelo Anthony at power forward, Trevor Ariza at shooting forward, then THT, as you said, Taylor Horton Tucker there behind Bazemore, and then Kendrick Nunn behind Russell. And then you've got Malik Monk and Wayne Ellington there as shooting guards coming off the bench. It may sound like a championship team. I think it's all going to depend on how Russell plays with them. I mean, Russell needs to have the ball, Matt, and LeBron needs to have the ball. So, I mean, LeBron likes to run point guard duty. Is Russell really going to take a step back? What about Russell's career has shown anyone that he's willing to take a step back to another alpha dog? I mean, Bradley Beal wasn't contending for playmaking on the team with the Wizards, so it really worked. But the James Harden Westbrook thing was really weird, and then him with KD didn't work out. So how is he going to sit back on a LeBron team? Do you anticipate that working well?
I mean, he's the third option. I would hope he knows that coming in.
I don't know if somebody should tell him.
I would have. I mean, look, he is genuinely, by all accounts, good friends with LeBron and AD.
Yes, very true. Very true. Yes.
And I didn't know this until I stumbled upon it last night. One thing, Russ, as you know, as a Wizards fan, he loves to throw lobs.
He does.
Loves it. And his bigs roll, and go watch the highlight packages from Steven Adams getting dunk after dunk after dunk, and then go to the Wizards. He lobbed all day. Schroeder to AD, there was only one lob all of last season. One. Wow. Which is crazy. I don't even understand how that's technically possible. So that'll be something that will be unlocked in their offense that wasn't in previous season. And I don't know if that's true or not. I just stumbled upon it. I was like, that's super interesting. If that is the case, I want to create more instances in my head, but I can't give you off the top of my head because who the fuck knows? But yeah, he's third option.
Right.
And late in game, I mean, Gasol's going to be off the floor, so they're going to shove in somebody else to get more shooting and spacing out there.
Yeah.
But even still, Russ is going to want to shoot in high leverage moments because he's always shot in those moments. And that's quite possibly the only person on that roster I don't want shooting in those moments.
Yeah. Yeah. I would almost trust AD and LeBron from beyond the arc than I would Russell.
Yep. 100%.
So.
Not even question it.
So that's kind of scary.
I would honestly, going down their roster, I take Gasol. I take, Dwight Howard might be the only one off the top of my head, but I take Ellington, Bazemore, Carmelo, maybe Kendrick Nunn. I'd have to really think about that one.
Right.
Malik Monk, I take Westbrook over Malik, but there's a whole cavalcade of individuals that I would take shooting the ball late in the game.
I might take Frank Vogel over Russell. I'll be honest with you.
It'll be interesting because he's a defensive coach, and they just fell off a cliff defensively.
They really did, dude.
So what adjustments is he going to be able to make to maximize the defensive potential of this team and also not hamper the offense? So perhaps it's just telling LeBron and the guys, you guys devise the offense, and I will help tweak it along with you and let me handle the defense.
I mean, I'm sure you know this. Playing with friends ain't the same as being friends. Sometimes those friends, their tendency, their ability to do certain things on the court, their overwhelming belief in themselves sometimes can cause you to lose games, can cause frustrating, critical moments to go against you. So I don't know, man. I want to cheer for Russell. I want to see that. I mean, he's going back to to old stomping grounds. He used to play at UCLA. He's from that area. So like, okay, cool. You'll get to show up and show out there for your Lakers, but will it be enough? And if they start out with a bad record, if they start out with some going on a bad run or going a bad streak of losses here, man, the finger pointing, the passive aggressive finger pointing that both of them have done. I mean, Russell and LeBron in the press will start, and that could be a real issue going forward for this team. I don't know.
Yeah, and to the point you brought up, earlier, will they be able to run through the West, whatnot?
Yeah,
there does become a question of, well, who's going to stop them?
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, technically, this team is old, but looking at the West, it's like Dallas didn't get dramatically better.
Nope. Nobody wants to come play for Dallas, man. Nobody.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. They re-signed Hardaway? They re-signed Hardaway. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
To 4 years, averages out to $18 million per.
Yeah. And Cuban was out there kicking the tires. Cuban was trying to get some interest, but
try to get Lowry.
Yeah. I mean, they hired this guy to be their GM who's got all these Nike connects. He brought them nothing.
And the Phoenix potentially like walking around with the swagger, but the Warriors didn't get dramatically better.
Yeah.
Hell, they just traded Eric Pascal today, or just breaking like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
To Utah, but Utah didn't really make any big, huge moves. Denver's still dealing with Jamal Murray being out. Now they've made moves around the margin and retained some of their guys, but at the same time, are they really a threat to the Lakers? Well, if the Lakers stay healthy, I don't think so.
It's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. The Clippers, if the Clippers don't retain Reggie Jackson, I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think this is a juggernaut team like years past with the Lakers.
Mm-hmm. But it might be enough to get the job done.
Yeah, it might be enough.
Yeah.
But that being said, in the East, if Brooklyn's healthy, I like Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Miami now with all their new depth are going to be really interesting. Milwaukee's walking around with a lot of swagger.
Yeah.
Philly, if they can find a trade partner for Ben Simmons, so they got to find somebody. They're fucking. I love that Daryl Morey, like to San Antonio, 4 firsts, 3 pick swaps. And my honest to God first thought was, why don't you also ask for Pop to give you a handy? Because you're asking for the moon, might as well.
For Simmons, for fuck's sake.
For Simmons, who's his trade value is not quite at its lowest, but it's getting there.
Yeah. Do you think Buddy Hield would have been a better addition than Westbrook? Okay.
Yes.
Explain that.
Don't even
real quick.
But just because by percentage, he's actually an excellent shooter.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
And he fits into what they need, which is a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands to maximize his potential, and he can easily play off of LeBron and AD, and gives them a shooter and the spacing those two they desperately need.
Yeah.
Plus, you wouldn't have had to sacrifice potentially KCP, so you would still maintain KCP with his shooting plus defense, and it gives them more depth and flexibility as opposed to hamstringing yourselves to Westbrook's contract, and now the lack of depth. So yeah, I like the Buddy Hield, and as soon as they got Westbrook, I was like, it's a bigger star, which LA loves, but I'm not sure that really ups your championship quotient to the degree that Hield could have.
Well, real quick, before we jump into the Heat situation, let's look at the reverse of this trade. Did my Wizards get any better or worse?
No, I think he got better, actually.
Yeah, picking up Kuzma, KCP, picking up Holiday that we got in the draft, in the trade there in the draft, and possibly I think Dinwiddie is kicking the tires on us. I think right now. So does that make us a completely different team, but maybe a better team?
I think so. Especially if Beal, by all accounts, wants to stay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I know. The Dinwiddie trade, according to Woj, is going to end up being a 5 or 6 team deal.
Wow.
To get all the moving, because it's going to be a sign and trade from Brooklyn. And to get it accomplished, it's going to take 5 to 6 teams. That's why it hasn't happened yet.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But I think the addition of Dinwiddie, the clear pecking order of Beal is the number one option, the growth of your young guys, I think it's a better team. Now, Westbrook gave you guys a sense of identity.
Yeah, he did.
And he did. And he taught the young guys to fight and to keep pushing and all the stuff you love about Westbrook. Yeah. So potentially, it's so much so that Hachimura was calling him senpai. But perhaps they take some of that. It's kind of like when Oladipo, after a year playing with Westbrook, went off and became an all-star.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do if you really want to compete at the highest level type of thing. And I do like the mid-season when things were floundering and they had a team meeting and Westbrook and all the guys stood up and declared, here's what I do on this team.
Yeah.
So there was no ambiguity as to everyone's role. It's like that takes a very specific type of individual. So
yeah,
I think the long-term effects could be very good for what he gave to your team.
Yeah, so it could be if you look at it as reverse, it could be something that galvanizes these Lakers. Then if LeBron even is willing to take a little bit of a step back and let Russell be like, okay, this, and this, and this, yeah, or maybe Russell sits back a little bit, not having to do all that extra work because he's playing with a bunch of veterans. He's playing with a bunch of players that have won titles, so they've been there before. So it's a little less stress for him to be able to be doing all this extra effort to make sure the young guys are getting on the ball or figuring things out. Now he's sharing the load of teaching the young guys with a crap ton of veterans on that team.
Yeah, but they have 3 young guys.
Yeah, only 3. Guys. Yeah.
So it's not quite the same. And plus, I don't see if LeBron is taking a step back, it's for Anthony Davis, not for Russell Westbrook.
That's true.
So
yeah.
Anyway,
one more thing. Rumor is Kevin Love. Any chance now? Does that change the trajectory of this team overall? There's rumors going around that he might be going to the Lakers, or they might work out a deal for Kevin Love.
How do the Cavs? I mean, the Cavs would have to buy him out.
That's what it would have to be, I would imagine.
Yeah. And then they'll sign him for the same money that they signed everybody else.
Right.
Which is a scant amount. I don't know. Shit, if you believe Colangelo, Kevin Love is done. That was brutal. I don't know why Colangelo has Jesus, man.
He sent him home and said, he ain't got what it takes to be.
Yeah, exactly. We did it. We brought him in as a favor because he's been there for us in the past, but he's washed. That's basically the gist of the quote. We're like, fuck, man, how do you anticipate getting guys in the future if you're willing to drag, stars that show up for you? We all know Kevin Love is no longer Kevin Love, but we don't need to publicly state that.
But also, would you want to go back to LeBron? I mean, Kevin was one of those guys that had trouble sometimes with LeBron. I mean, Bosh had trouble with it, but then, Bosh kind of established himself before his unfortunate physical issues. But like Love seemed to kind of rise up and wilt at the same time under LeBron's leadership. Do you put yourself under LeBron's I mean, I guess you could, because then you're not the focus of the offense. No one's thinking of you as part of the big 3. You're just a part of the ensemble. Maybe that's a way for him to hide for a bit on a possible championship team.
But I'm also looking up if they bring him on,
Yeah.
who in the world do they have to, do they have to cut anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't know. That's a good point.
Gone. Yeah, they might have to cut somebody.
Yeah.
If they bring on. I mean, some of these guys, they haven't, like Jared Dudley, they haven't re-signed.
No.
Certain other guys, they're not going to, or they've already released, like Alfonso McKinney.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe, but I would try and, if you could, get different. I'd get more shooting.
Yeah.
Because depth at center is not your problem when you've got AD, Marc Gasol, and Dwight Howard. You don't need to add another because Gasol's not going to be out there for crunch time anyway.
He can shoot though, right? I mean, Kevin Love can shoot, so it's not a bad thing to add him. And once again, a veteran who's, won a title, so it's possible to.
But is he known for defense? And is his offense good enough to make up for his, lack of defense? Probably not.
Right. If you have Russell and Kevin on the same, on the same lineup, that's a sieve that you're talking about defensively, man. Yeah. That's dangerous. All right. Let's see. We got a streamer that came through here from Doug. Developer says, yes, I know winning is most important, but how much do you think location alone are a factor for these free agents? I'm sorry, but Sacramento and Minneapolis don't really have much to offer fun-wise, and that puts those cities at a major disadvantage. Yeah, Matt, Dallas is another. I would throw Dallas in there for whatever reason. Free agents don't want to go to Dallas. Do you think this is, in essence, this is a unfair competitive advantage that these other teams have?
Well, I think in Dallas's case, everybody knows that's Luka's team, so you're second fiddle no matter what.
That's true.
So it's trying to find a guy that's a marquee name that willing to come in and know that he's second fiddle to a young kid, even though the young kid is excellent.
Yeah.
But these other markets, that's why I was happy that Milwaukee won. It's one of the smallest markets, and they drafted and developed the bulk of this roster. You look at somebody like Chris Middleton, who was on their G League team and suffered through the losing for years on end with Giannis, and they developed. It gives hope to small market teams that you can retain your superstars and you can win a championship. And the nonsense of all the injuries. Well, there's injuries every year, and everybody benefits from the injuries that ends up winning a championship. It just happens. So kudos to them for outlasting everybody else. But yeah, I mean, you're operating from a deficit from these smaller markets. Oklahoma City, Sacramento, Minnesota that you brought up, quite a few others.
Right.
Texas has the advantage of there's no state income tax, so they should always be advantageous for players.
Yeah, you would think that's what lures people to Miami. That's one of the elements that lures people to Miami. Same thing with there in Texas. But I also think
that and their foreclosure laws, where if they go bankrupt, they can't lose their house in Florida.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I got to.
Yeah, it's part of the it's like the castle exception or something like that. But yeah, you can't lose your house in bankruptcy in Florida. So it's another reason that players like Florida.
Jesus, that's fantastic.
Yeah, not bad.
I also think some of the Texas, black players going to Texas, maybe it isn't the most interesting thing. Although, they've gotten players in Houston. So, they've gotten free agents in Houston for many, many years. So, I don't know. Maybe it's Cuban. Maybe it's just like you said, maybe it's sitting backseat to Luka. Plus, you get the blame. Like, Kristaps has been taking so much shit this year. Sometimes rightfully so.
Fucking should, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes rightfully so. But by the same token, what second fiddle wants to roll over there and know they're going to essentially be blamed the whole year for any problems?
Markkanen on the Bulls wants to play in Dallas.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think they can afford him.
Right.
Quite possibly. But I know, it's a much smaller list. But if they become known as the international team, well, then what homegrown U.S. talent then wants to go play for the international team? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
But yeah, it's weird that Dallas, it seems like a very player-first team, so that guys would flock to wanting to play for an owner that's willing to spend to maximize, their health benefit, all the training facilities, everything else.
Also, do you want to play for Jason Kidd, though? I don't know, man. I don't know if I'd want to play for
I don't
Jason
know.
Kidd. I'll be honest with you. All right, we got over 100 y'all watching us live. Thank you so much. Please remember to hit that like button as we go along. We only got about 50 likes, so let's get those likes up. It's that thumbs up button if it's your first day.
Pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. Let's pump those numbers up.
Come on, guys. Give us those veteran numbers. Ryan Christian says, I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to come to Toronto and be on 0 degree Fahrenheit weather in November, December, January, February, March? Such a destination.
But by all accounts, Toronto is, like, if you listen to Jalen Rose.
Oh, true.
Top 3 of his favorites and among NBA players, like amazing restaurants. The culture is fantastic. The people are amazing.
Yeah.
You just get dinged on the taxes and the weather.
That's true.
Which is kind of a big 1-2 combo. But
that is true. All right, let's move on to and keep sitting in your Streamlabs super test, ladies and gentlemen. Send in some support for what we're doing here on the Outlaw Nation and for this show, Game Time, especially for Matt being on here. Matt, let's move on to the other big free agency news, or one of the other big free agency news items. That's Kyle Lowry. Finally, the trade has happened with the Raptors. This has been on deck for a couple of years now. Rumors about him being traded and what have you. Remember, he came to Toronto in a trade, and what they were trying to trade him since he came to that team, and then eventually won them over and won the title with Kawhi. But now he is heading off to Miami. This is incredible how Miami is able to bring so many great players. I mean, LeBron wore the Miami Heat jersey and won 2 titles with those Heat while he was there, or 1 title rather. Yeah, two, sorry. 2 when he was there with the Heat. So now you've got Kyle Lowry coming, who was fresh off a title win 2 years ago, but they also retained Duncan Robinson in this situation, and they traded with the Raptors. The Raptors are going to get Precious Achiuwa and Goran Dragic in a sign and trade. So this is going to pair with Jimmy Butler, and the rumors are the Heat are looking to sign Jimmy to a max extension as well. And Bam Adebayo. And I think they stole PJ Tucker as well.
Yep,
from
2
the
years,
Bucks.
$15 million, I believe.
Yeah. So and Max Strus is supposed to be coming back. So has the Heat all of a sudden become the East maybe second place team behind the Nets in your mind for a return to the finals here?
They're in the mix. They've got great depth.
Mm-hmm.
You're returning with Jimmy and Bam. Hero, if he has a bounce back year, is going to make them all the more lethal. They signed Duncan Robinson to a 4-year, $18 million per deal.
Right.
You add Lowry, somebody that they've been trying to get for a while, and they didn't have to really give up all that much besides Precious and Goran.
Right.
And Dragic may end up getting shipped somewhere else.
Right.
Remains to be seen as of right now. But their depth overall makes them really interesting. And they got, you brought up PJ Tucker. They got Markieff Morris as well on a one-year deal.
Right. Took him from the Lakers.
Yep. Dwayne Dedmon, they re-signed.
And Oladipo. It looks like Oladipo is
1-year deal.
1-year deal is going to come back, keep rehabbing his knee. My God. All of a sudden, you look at this team, and this team looks scary good, scary dangerous. If everybody stays healthy and they can figure out how to share that ball with all those scorers, there's a real possibility. And, Spoelstra and Riley are just salivating at the possibility of being able to put this team on the court. I like this idea. I like what they've done. It's a good mix of not too old veterans and the young guys who are coming into their prime. This is a nice mix. And you throw in Markieff, who's that kind of, he's that guy who's going to punch you in the mouth when you need him to, kind of vibe with Tucker. Both those guys as a 1-2. That's like Charles Oakley times 2 hanging out on your team. So it gives a little toughness to that team as well, matched by Jimmy's toughness, which is already legendary. So I like this whole team. This feels like a strong, powerful team that could be real frisky in these playoffs and could sneak into the finals over the Bucks and over the Nets if they start getting some injury concerns themselves. If
Oladipo can come back and play anywhere near where he was, and according to, so he had another surgery in May on his quadricep tendon in his right leg. And according to the doctor, like, it wasn't fully attached, and it's amazing that he was even out there playing type of thing. But the surgery went as well as it could have, and he's projected to be back in November. If he can play at borderline all-star level, then they're going to be a serious threat coming out of the East between him, Jimmy, Kyle, and Bam. And then all the pressure is off of the likes of Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, PJ Tucker, or anybody else to step up. We have 4 guys operating at high level. They're going to be they're going to be super interesting. They're in the top, 2-3 teams in the East, them, the Nets and the Bucks. And then I would put Philly in there, but I don't know how that roster is going to be constructed as a start of training camp. I assume Ben Simmons is going to be gone. He wants to be gone. Management wants him gone. Like, it doesn't look like, Dwight Howard took a shot at him on his thank you to Philly. Said, Ben, make sure to bend those knees. It was the last line of his thank you to Philly post. Jesus. It's like, everybody's dragging this dude. He needs to move.
Yeah.
So until they figure that situation out, I really can't put Philly in the same conversation. But the Miami Heat suddenly, once again, are back in the conversation of they can win the East. And they get through the East, I think they could win a championship.
I think it's absolutely possible as well. I mean, Jimmy wants another shot at that time. Jimmy wants another shot in those finals. You got the great mix of talent and talent that isn't too old. I think that's really important to stress here. This is talent that's still Lowry. I know what was Lowry, like 34 or something like that. So he's not on the tail end just yet, but he's approaching Chris Paul age, but he's not really on the tail end just yet. I think he's 34. 35. Sorry, 35. So still enough. Still not too old just yet, but maybe coming close to there as a point guard for sure. But I like this. I like all the moves they made. It just makes so much sense. They've still got, I think, 3 or 4 roster spots open. Someone in the chat, IMAX, I think was a big Miami fan. He says they still need a true center. Do you think that Bam is more of a power forward?
Well, I mean, Bam is a hybrid for the modern game, so that's your center. But yeah, they depth at the 4-5 position. I mean, that's why you bring in somebody like a PJ Tucker or a Markieff Morris.
Yeah,
but they could definitely use a little bit more depth at the big man position. But you're going to be running out Bam as your 5, regardless. He's going to be playing your 35-minute slot, and in the playoffs, 40 minutes a game.
Yeah.
So I don't question that. But yeah, the depth at the big is a concern on some level, but given their offensive firepower everywhere else, hypothetically, but everybody's healthy, you can overcome. I mean, every team has a flaw.
Right.
So if that's your biggest flaw is you need a backup center, that's not the end of the world.
All right. And Andre Drummond could have been a possibility, but I think he signed with the Knicks. I think is where Andre.
No, he is on the Sixers.
Sorry, he went to the Sixers.
After Joel had been talking shit with him for years. He is now backing up Joel. And he got veteran minimum.
I don't know. Why would you do this as a front office? Did you go to Joel and go, hey man,
they had to.
We're thinking of doing this. Are you okay with this?
Yeah, they had to.
This makes no sense.
And Drummond's got to be,
just
assuming that there would be more lucrative offers out there.
Yeah.
For it's a center that can't do anything other than the rim run, I'm sorry, there's not much of a place for you in today's modern NBA.
I think we talked about it a while ago, bro. One of our maybe our pre-top 10 banters that we do sometimes, that it's amazing how quickly the NBA changed out from right under Andre Drummond. I mean, he was going to be making $125 million or some madness. And then all of a sudden they didn't need that kind of center anymore in the NBA.
Roy Hibbert is the best example of that.
Oh, Hibbert.
First team, practically all NBA to 2 years later, he is unplayable and out of the league.
Yeah,
it's amazing. But when your skill set is that limited, I mean, look at DeAndre Jordan. He can't get any run on the Nets.
Yeah.
And he's getting paid because he's buddies with those dudes.
There's not that many centers left here if we're looking at the ones who are available. Enes Kanter is still available.
Nah, he's on Boston.
Did he go to Boston? Okay, what up, Robin Lopez? Is he still
Lopez is on Orlando.
Okay, he went to Orlando. So there's really nothing left, bro. I mean, there's in terms of centers, there's not much out there. If Miami is going to fill that center position with a true center, there's not much out there for them to go and get from what I'm looking at here. So,
yeah, I mean, available free agent list. It's everybody's either re-signed. You're not going to find much depth.
Yeah.
Unless you want to bring in somebody that's like a hybrid type of situation, but even then, Millsap has Millsap signed anywhere? I don't think Millsap has.
Oh, maybe Millsap, but yeah, I wonder.
I mean, that's where we're at. I like Millsap, but he's finally he dipped last year for the first time.
Yeah, true. All right, let's see if we got any more Streamlabs or super chats. No, hey, ladies and gentlemen, please send them in. Send in your support for the show. The Streamlabs address is right there on the screen. It's also pinned to the chat and in the description of this video as well. Send in some support for this NBA talk we're having right now. And please remember to hit that like button as we go along. We're at 58 likes, but we got 100 of you. Come on now. Let's get to 100 likes, for God's sakes. Hit that thumbs up button. And we got 100 you watching right now, so give it some love. Aaron Baines just got released by the Raptors. Yeah, that's not going to do the job.
There's another center.
You think, but okay.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's what you're dealing with at this point.
Yeah, it's true. All right, let's move on to your Bulls here, Matt. Let's move on to your Bulls. Wow, what a complete and utter turnaround.
Yep.
For this Bulls here, the team, they signed Lonzo Ball. Sorry, got the mom calling. They signed Lonzo Ball here in a sign and trade agreement worth 4 years and $85 million. They signed Alex Caruso. They're finalizing a sign and trade deal for DeMar DeRozan. So, my God, talk to me about how you feel about all these moves and how you feel about these Bulls now.
I'm actually a big fan. This is the first time in a while where we've done a huge shakeup like this.
Yeah.
And we didn't, we already sacrificed a big chunk of stuff to get Vooch.
Yes.
So when we do a sign and trade for Lonzo and we're sending out Satoransky, Garrett Temple in a second rounder, well, Garrett Temple in the second rounder, I don't care about. Satoransky, I liked, but when you're getting Lonzo back, apples to apples type of thing, I'll take Lonzo because he can play off ball. He's turned himself into a good 3-point shooter. He's not elite. Right. Good. I trust him now shooting a 3-point shot. So if you make Levine the primary and Lonzo is willing to sit off, plus on defense, he now gives us flexibility on defensive matchups and can make up for Levine's shortcomings when we have to do the pair ups there and get us out running in transition, which he's excellent at. He's got great court vision. I think this is a major upgrade. DeRozan, once again, we didn't ship out. A future first is the biggest loss there. And Thad Young is a junkyard dog, and I loved having him on the team.
Right.
But him and Al-Farouq Aminu was like, okay. Don't really necessarily care. They're getting a couple second rounders as well out of this.
Don't get me wrong. I like your 8 points a game, but don't get me wrong. But
well, not even, to be perfectly honest. I think getting Caruso for that number 9 and change per year, it's a tradable contract. If it doesn't work out, somebody would take him off our hands. I'm perfectly fine with that. I do worry about potential spacing issues just because DeRozan's not going to shoot a 3. He is the king of taking one step in and shooting a long 2.
Yeah.
Vooch best operates when the ball moves through him.
Yes.
So if you have those two guys kind of clogging in from 15, 16 feet inward, well, it reduces the driving lanes and nullifies some of the effectiveness of Levine and Lonzo. But I think at least this is interesting and it makes us a potent team.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can score and play defense. I like our depth, especially if we keep marking in on more than likely like a 1-year deal and he wants to prove to the world. So if we got him and Kobe White coming off the bench, Pat Williams would be the other starter. It's like, okay, we're pretty strong, 7-8 deep. Yeah. This is not a bad team. Can we win a championship? No chance. We can't.
But you'll get in the playoffs, which is good. Which is good for your organization. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are saying, well, this should guarantee us getting the play-in games. Like, if we only make the play-in game, this season has been a disaster.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. You've got a lot of talent on that team now.
I think 5th or 6th seed is legitimate where we should be setting our sights. Mm-hmm. We're not as good as the top 4 to 5.
Right.
4 for sure. Even Philly, with all their questions, is a better team.
Right.
But I think Indy takes a step back. Losing Doug McDermott was huge. He was a huge cog in their wheel. Yeah. So I think we could overtake them, and the Wizards I'm not sure about. I think we can overtake them.
Probably.
Well, I think you guys still make the playoffs.
Yeah, but I would take your roster over ours right now. I'll be honest with you. I would. So I think you guys are going to get there above us. That's for
instead of buying into what I do every year, which is we have a lot of guys that other teams covet because there's a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And now we turn that potential into, well, here's a proven individual.
Yeah. And you're getting a Lonzo Ball here. Let's just run through the numbers real quick here. Lonzo Ball, with the first 2 years on the Lakers, 31.5% from deep, 43.7% from the line. with New Orleans, he has gone up to 37.6% from deep and 66.4% from the line. He averaged career highs last year in 3-point percentage, field goal percentage, free throw percentage, true shooting percentage, and points per game. He also protected the ball like never before with a career low 14.5 turnover percentage, while his usage percentage was at a career high of 20.5. So this is good. What you're hoping, though, is that none of his injury concerns come back or pop up here for Lonzo. And this could be fun to see him getting kind of revitalized or reborn under a new team here in New Orleans, and then seeing what he can do to kind of co-carry or co-lead a team here with LaVine for these Bulls. I like this. It makes you guys dangerous. It makes you guys almost feels like you guys might be putting together that old school, that 2005 Pistons team where nobody's really the biggest star, but they're all just so good at what they do that it's enough that the sum of the parts are better than the parts in a solo way. So I like this. I think all of a sudden now I'm curious to see how the Bulls play next year or next season.
Yeah, I mean, I would say LaVine is our apex, and he's been trending up every season. He gets a little bit better and a little bit better. And I think doing the Olympics and being around somebody like KD will really benefit him and quite a few other guys on that team.
Right.
Much like when LeBron and Wade, those young guys, played with Kobe in Beijing, and they came back and they talked about, dude, this guy gets up incredibly early.
Yeah.
He's put in thousands of shots before we even get to practice, and he is devoted and dedicated to the craft. So being around all these other high level, and he's already on that trajectory.
Yeah.
I think he has even more, he has room for growth to be a perennial all-star and potentially make the discussion of all NBA. I don't think he's there yet, but
right.
He could enter into that discussion and maybe make a third team. It's not inconceivable to me.
Yeah.
And with Lonzo, a lot of that you could say, oh, those numbers are up because he knew he was coming into a contract year. But he's changed his shooting mechanics, and his shot looks fluid, and it doesn't look like that weird semicircle hitch that he was doing before. And the release point is no longer at an angle. It's more true to a 90-degree going at the basket. So the mechanics are solid now. Yeah. When you see that the percentage has gone up accordingly, it's something you can buy into as opposed to, well, maybe it was a fluke kind of season.
Right.
But
it feels fundamental rather than, like you said, a fluke. Yeah.
Yeah. Or that he's trying harder because he knows it's a contract year.
Oh, yeah. Fair point. Yeah. Absolutely.
Whereas this is just like, he's trending. The trajectory of this is correct.
Yeah.
At least by the eye test. So yeah, all the little pieces around the margins, and then going out and doing something like a Caruso after you've already, set your sights on Lonzo and DeRozan and gotten them to flush out the bench and get more depth there. It's like, this is a scrappy team that can play defense and score.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we should be interesting.
Do you think Billy Donovan is the right coach for this team?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think that remains to be seen, but I don't think they have any intention of moving off of him anytime soon. So it doesn't really matter if you don't like him. So,
okay. All right.
Billy Donovan is our coach.
Yeah. I liked him for what he did with the Thunder for a while. And we'll see what he can do now with some better players, some better resources on his team, if he can make this team make some noise in the East. That's for sure. We'll look forward to it. LaMarcus Aldridge, real quick, just is coming over the wire here. LaMarcus Aldridge apparently, after medical consultation, is considering a return to the league. Remember, he retired in mid-April with some heart issues. Yeah, this is
really
being reported by ESPN right now. He's apparently had consultations with medical staff and his own doctors, and he is mulling a return to the league. Well, Miami, if you need a center, I know he's got kind of a power forward center, but LaMarcus could fit the bill if he's feeling good. So it could be an interesting situation. What do you think?
And much like Mourning, if any team knows how to handle a center with, heart problems.
Yes. And Bosch, Mourning and Bosch, how they were able to negotiate.
But Bosch had to retire on his.
True.
Mourning still maintained a little bit.
True.
It's crazy. It's just Bosch was in the league and then out immediately.
Yeah, he was done.
Yeah, it's crazy. He still had Bosch in today's modern NBA is practically the perfect center.
Yeah, for sure.
All
right, let's move on to some more stories here, Matt. Anything more to say on your Bulls? I think we've
I think we've covered.
Okay, let's move on to some other stories here as we near the end of the show here. There's some big deals. Kemba Walker. Let's talk about Kemba Walker joining the Knicks here after he agreed to a buyout with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Remember, he was traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder by his former coach, Brad Stevens, as one of the first moves there as a president of basketball operations or GM, whatever title they gave him. Do you like this move to the Knicks? I mean, D-Rose just re-signed for the Knicks as well. Shout out to D-Rose. What a comeback story, man. He's getting paid now. And no, he's not the all-star to lead your team to a title, but it's great to see him still making his money and being valued as a contributor on a team, and especially a playoff team like the Knicks did going in as the fourth seed, I think, or fifth seed last year. Do you like Kemba on these Knicks? Do you think this kind of elevates this playoff team to a little bit of a higher level now, having Kemba maybe running the point?
For Kemba, it all comes down to health.
Yes.
So if he can stay on the court, then Kemba is an amazing pickup for them, and they're going to end up paying him something like $8 million per.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the contract length, but the floated number was $8 million because that's what they have left in available cap space. So they're just going to hand it all over to Kemba. And what's interesting is the Celtics lose him and Fournier both go to the Knicks.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah.
I don't like Fournier at 18 mil.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me.
I don't. I realize the numbers indicate that that's what he's worth, but when I watch him, I no way do I feel like he's an $18 million player. Yeah. But I think it's good that New York invested in their guys and re-signed and maintained as many of their products as they possibly could as a form of continuity and just to keep this team together. They did make the playoffs. They got drummed out by the Hawks, but there's room for improvement and growth. And you do that collectively together, and Tibbs has them playing really well together. And Kemba's a nice addition to that. It comes down to health. And as far as the Rose, he was flirted with potentially re-signing with the Bulls, and I would have loved that.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
But I'm ecstatic for him. What did he get? 3 years, $43 million?
Yeah, it was a nice chunk of change. For a guy that looked like he might have been out of the league a few years ago, he's been kind of just revitalizing himself every season and staying healthy, which is the most important thing. He must be so happy that he's not getting a reoccurrence of those knee issues that doomed him when he was an all-star for Chicago.
Yeah. And hopefully it just maintains, but more than likely you keep him coming off the bench and playing, crunch time minutes, because they ran into a problem of only D Rose could get a bucket for him late. So now they got Kemba, and if he's healthy, the addition of Fournier. But for that price point, he could have gone to a number of teams, but he's from New York.
Right.
So this is a nice homecoming for him. And it's good to see that the Knicks are going to be, contenders to be a difficult out night in, night out in the East.
Yeah.
It's another team where I think the Bulls are fighting with them for legitimacy and that kind of middle of the pack. Atlanta's a team we forgot to bring up. I think they're top four.
Yeah. Absolutely. Especially what they did last year.
Yeah.
Yes. And signing the extensions here for Trae Young and Collins. That you show a lot of confidence in that squad now and in the young leader there to take them. Sure. Kemba missed 43 games last year, 57 games the year before. So do we worry that the knee injury will pop up back up again? I mean, it's not,
100%.
You're not taking too much of a risk for $8 million a year for a guy like this, but because he was averaging 20 points and he was averaging 20 points, 5 rebounds and 4 assists after the All-Star break. So he could still bring it. So it might be I think he's a good replacement for the point guard they had there before, Elfrid Payton. I trust him more. So, and he's got experience, playing in some tough situations in some critical games. So that could help the team get better as well overall.
Kind of. Charlotte was not a playoff team, so
right. But the Celtics all the way to the conference finals. I mean, that's a good thing. That's good experience for the player, right?
Yeah, I don't really. Okay, you're not wrong. It's just the knee issue is huge because
it's massive. Yeah,
even when he was playing, every once and again he'd have a bad night and it would be. He'd just be off.
Yeah.
And you didn't know if it was like some lingering knee issue or something, or he's tentative and holding back. I'm not sure, but for $8 million, it's a steal.
Yeah, right. It is a steal for what you're investing for sure. All right. Kawhi Leonard here. He declined the $36 million player option for next season. The rumors are, according to Wojo and other people, that he is mulling a 5-year extension with the Clippers. Does that make sense to you for him to finish out his career with the Clippers under Tyronn Lue with Paul George possibly? Does this make sense to you at all? Oh, sorry, 4-year, $176.2 million deal. Sorry about that. Yeah.
The 5-year, I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's 4 years, probably the last year's a player option, more than likely.
Right.
So in reality, this is a 3-year contract.
Good point. Yep.
For 3 years, yeah, because you got PG signed that extension.
Yes.
So he'd be there for that same timeline. It just, can they find enough guys to fill in around the margins? They brought Batum back, which I think is good. And
yes,
they need to bring back Reggie Jackson. Just flat out need, because of the two guys in the playoffs, him and Campaign, that I never thought would really contribute at that kind of level. He blew me away by how good he was.
Right.
Campaign was good, and he showed up a couple times where the Suns really needed him.
Yeah.
But he would still disappear every once and again. Whereas Reggie was spot on night in and night out. So if you can get Kawhi for the 4-year deal, it's really 3, and you can re-sign Reggie Jackson, and it's not like Ballmer doesn't have the money to pay the luxury tax. And they're in LA. They're going to be opening a new stadium or arena very soon.
Right.
So you kind of need to spend the money to build around these guys. I think Kawhi is definitely worth it.
Yeah.
And if the Clippers want to stay relevant and in championship contention, they have to do it. So I think it's a no-brainer.
The other part of this also with this is you wonder what it's going to lead to for the Clippers, right? Is this something they're able to turn around? Because a lot of people feel like they would have won that series against Phoenix. Do you feel that way too? If they had the full complement of their players,
quite possibly. But once again, injuries are part of this. Kawhi at the end of that Toronto run, was limping around. It looked like his leg was just killing him.
Yeah, looking at a dead leg at times. Yeah.
And then in the offseason, the rumor was it was a degenerative, thing that he's going to be dealing with this for the rest of his career and the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And it's just going to get worse from here. So,
wow.
But how often, when he's on, which towards the end of the season and going into the playoffs before he got hurt, he was looking like Kawhi again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like full on. So if you can manage his minutes and take the fines from the league when you're resting him when they don't want you to, so that you can keep him healthy come playoff time.
Right.
They're going to be a tough out, because Paul George, I think, finally shook off the rust of pandemic P and getting dragged on Twitter, and got them to a conference finals, which they have never done.
Yeah.
And they're on the precipice of making the finals.
Yeah. True.
So I think his maturation and growth, coupled with if Kawhi is healthy and they can fill in the margins around, because they're still returning a decent chunk of this team.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to be tough.
Yeah. He could sign a 1-year deal and then wait 1 more year. And that's when he could get the 5-year deal, which is $200-something million. Jesus Christ. So he could go one of two directions, I suppose. He did turn down the extension, but he could go one of two directions if he wants to get paid a little bit higher for 1 year and then see if he can parlay that into a 5-year extension, which would be massive. But you got to really believe. I don't know if I would tie myself to this Clippers organization, Matt, at this point. I really don't know. I really would give myself, if I was someone like Kawhi, I'd give myself a little more room to maneuver for sure. Maybe do that 1-year deal.
Or maybe, he resigns for the technically 4-year deal. They open that new stadium with their new training facility.
Right.
And when guys come in, they see how amazing it is. And Ballmer seems like a great owner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's willing to spend. And you're looking at if I want to live in LA, the counterpart to this is the Lakers, and the Lakers don't have any money. They don't have any draft picks. It is a shallow team that is exceedingly top heavy. Yeah. So if those are my two choices, well, the Clippers might be the better option. They don't have the pedigree.
Yeah.
But you can always make that.
Yeah.
So
another big piece of news. I got to get your thoughts on this. Mike Conley is still getting paid by the NBA here. This is incredible. I thought he was all the way out, man. All the way. He was done. He seems to be. I really felt that way after he'd gone from Memphis. I just thought, yeah, he's not going to be able to do it again. He's kind of on the downside. But going in here to Utah, and he signed a deal for 3 years, $72.5 million. Do you think Mike Conley is worth 3 years and $72.5 million? And let me add to that, with the 5-year extensions of Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, which kick in this season, all three of those guys are worth $368 million right now, which pushes the Jazz into the luxury tax big time. Well, so does it make sense?
You answered your question by bringing up the second part. To Utah, he is worth, well, because they're so cash strapped, they can't get anybody better.
Yeah.
And Mike Conley, they went out and traded for him to get him from Memphis.
Yeah.
And when he's healthy and playing like Mike Conley can, he makes them really potent and effective. Now, Utah's talking about the Jingle Joe is available if you offer the right trade package for him. And I don't know who will. I mean, Golden State was saying they had interest, but I don't know what they have to offer that entices Utah. And then you also have to do a salary match, although Jingle Joe isn't making an obscene amount of money. But to Utah, 3 years, 70 some odd million, considering Lowry is making 30% more than that.
Yeah.
And they're roughly the same age. Like it's not the worst contract in the league. If he can stay healthy, I think that's a steal for Utah.
Really? Oh, so then that's the problem, right? Because he's had those hamstring injuries since he's been at Utah. I think he missed 6 of the games against the Clippers in the Jazz series there. But he averaged 16.2 points per game, 6.0 assists per game, with a career best 552 effective field goal percentage. And he's 33 years old, and he finally made his first all-star team after 14 years in the league. I mean, I don't think I'm wrong for thinking after 14 seasons, I thought this guy was cooked, especially the position he plays. But I didn't expect him making $72 million over 3 years. If I'm Steven Jackson looking at that number, I'm going, I'm going to get paid. I'm going to get paid. So
Jackson.
I'm sorry. What's his face for the Clippers, the point guard. I'm sorry.
Reggie Jackson?
Reggie Jackson. Sorry, Reggie Jackson. If I'm going to get paid, I'm going to get my money. Well, that's for damn sure. Yeah.
Yeah, quite possibly. But the thing is, like, even if Utah wanted Reggie Jackson, they can't offer him that much money because Utah's allowed to go over the cap to re-sign their own players.
Right. So I'm talking about with the Clippers. Like he can hold this contract out and go like, this is what Conley got. And I played a way better season than Mike Conley for this team. So I don't know.
I think Reggie Jackson had a better playoffs. I don't know about the season as a whole.
Fair enough.
The other reason that Utah is willing to pay him, when they didn't have him, defenses, when it came down to crunch time, knew the only person that can play make on this roster is Donovan Mitchell. So all we got to do is key in on him.
Yeah.
And the best option he's got is a kick out to the wings. And they very well could have advanced, in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Except for that, Rudy Gobert gets dragged for the not running out to guard against threes. But it was the coaching decision of how they're going to play these situations, and he's adhering to what the coaches choose. So do they modify that in the future or potentially put out a different lineup out there? But the team, they were number 1 in the league last year.
Yes.
They had the best regular season record. They were, a tough out night in, night out.
Right.
So it's not inconceivable to say, okay, we re-sign him for, 20 some odd million per. It's not an egregious contract. It's technically tradable because, it's not in the upper super duper tier. So it makes sense. I knew that was coming because they didn't have any other options.
All right. One last thing we should hit on here with Chris Paul. Now he's agreeing to stay with the Suns, as we mentioned earlier. Do you like this idea? I mean, did the Suns I don't feel like they got any better here, man. I don't think they've added. I mean, Chris Paul coming back is nice, but $120 million. That's a lot to saddle yourself to a point guard who might be 1 year away from being like really sliding off the cliff here. We've seen that happen with point guards, Matt. You know that. So do you think Chris Paul, do you think this was worth it just to run it back one more time to see what you have?
They had to.
Yeah. All right.
I think people in Phoenix would have come out with pitchforks if they didn't resign.
Yeah.
They made the finals for the first time since Charles Barkley was there. And you can credit a tremendous amount of that to
Yep.
CP3's leadership and the change in identity. I mean, they were already in the bubble. They were trending and they were rattling off all those wins, and they almost made it into the playoff game. So the young guys were making a step up. And I think also jettisoning Kelly Oubre. He was hurt in the bubble, but getting him off the team and opening up the minutes for Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. When you watch it in the bubble, I remember texting friends that I have, the few friends that I have that are Phoenix fans.
Yeah.
Going, you guys got something here. And then see them fully make the commitment to that. They did make a lot of moves, but I don't know that they really needed to just because of the youth. It's the 4-year for 120 million.
That's the one.
Yeah. To get Sarver to spend money is crazy talk.
Yeah.
But Chris Paul is going to be making $30 million when he's 40 years old.
That's crazy.
It is nuts. It is nuts.
He'll still be good.
And he's so injury prone at this point.
Yeah.
But the young guys kind of, Booker should come back and be even greater killer.
Yeah.
Ayton has shown tremendous growth over this past season.
And he said that he credited Chris Paul for that growth. He credited Chris Paul overtly for that growth. So yeah, that's another reason to bring him back. He's kind of the general of this team because Booker doesn't strike me as that alpha dog who's going to kick some ass and whoop some people. But then again, we said the same thing about Giannis till he finally did it this past year. So who knows if Booker has got it in him? He just needs to find the right opportunity to do so and grow into that role.
Yeah,
that's possible too.
And I think the other young guys, they got campaigned for a pittance.
True.
It's like 6.9 per year or something.
Yeah.
I assumed he would get more on the open market. Maybe it was 6.3.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. Who cares? I know it averages, it's 19 million over 3 years.
Right.
But it's like 19 change. Anyway. Yeah, to get that. So it's like, all right, so now young guys, we need you to make the next step forward. And Phoenix could be the one that knocks out the Lakers and everybody else in the West. Like the West is a big fat question mark as to who is going to be the alpha at the end of all of this.
True.
Because each team has kind of question marks. Was Phoenix that legitimately good, or was it, they were the product of getting through injuries? I guess time will tell. I'm not denigrating them making the finals. I'm just saying these are narratives that are out there.
Yeah.
But they could very easily see themselves in the finals again.
Yep.
It's entirely conceivable.
Look, that 2011 Mavericks team made it to one finals and won it. That's it. There was no dynasty. There was no anything. They made it to one finals and got the job done. Who knows if Phoenix, who knows if Milwaukee are those kinds of one and done finalists? We shall see. Well, Miami looks like they've retooled to make another run at it. I don't know if Phoenix would do that coming out of the West. So many things had to happen, I think, Matt.
Previously, Dallas had made it once before, and they got beat by the Heat.
Right.
And came back years later. But they were always kind of good.
Yes, true. Always
in those interim years. So that could be Phoenix, where they're a tough out every year, and then eventually they get back up there and they get to the mountaintop.
Yeah, yeah. All right, we shall see. One last thing here. It's coming over the wire. Spencer Dinwiddie is officially signing a 3-year, $62 million deal with the Wizards to be our point guard. Do you like this?
Do you see? Yeah, I like it for you guys a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so it's a 5-teamer.
Yeah.
You guys are sending Chandler Hutchinson and a 22 second rounder to San Antonio.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, who gives a shit?
Yeah, really.
But I can't see a full breakdown of.
Yeah, it just happened 14 minutes ago, so I don't know who's going to run the wire of how many, who did what, and who's getting what.
So far, it's a 5-teamer. Oh, okay, so it's Washington, Brooklyn, San Antonio, Pacers, and Lakers.
Jesus.
But I don't see what all the moving parts are outside of San Antonio is getting Hutchinson and the 22 second rounder from you.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't see what the Nets get a 24 second rounder. Oh, and they get a pick swap in 25 with you. But I'm assuming that's a first round pick swap.
Yeah, yeah.
I would take that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Nets, I forgot to mention, the Nets lost Jeff Green, which you wouldn't think too much about, but Jeff Green was playing well for them.
He was huge for them in the playoffs a couple times.
He's going to Denver now. Maybe he's going to bring some of that kind of toughness to Denver a little bit, with Jamal Murray coming back as well. So,
we'll see when Murray comes back.
Yeah.
The thing is, between Green, they re-signed JaMychal Green, brought back Will Barton, and gave Will Barton's on a 2-year. Jeff Green's on a 2-year. JaMychal's on a 2 or 3, and they got Austin Rivers on a 1. But they'll have Michael Porter Jr. plus Aaron Gordon coming up.
Yeah.
Porter Jr. will be extension eligible next year, and they won't have much money left. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I like the fact that Jamal Murray is going to be out for the preponderance of the season, and they're not just folding their cards.
Yeah.
They're still trying, because realizing Jokic only has, as a big, his actual prime window is probably smaller than your average player.
Yeah.
So investing now, if Denver was fully healthy, they'd be my choice to be number 1 in the West.
There you go. I like that idea. Yeah. Well, we'll see. All right. I think that's all the NBA free agency stuff. Let's get on out of here, brother, man. Any final words on any of this stuff that you want to throw out there for anybody who's, is an avid listener to Droppin' Dimes, or any other stuff that you want to mention here about the NBA free agency?
I mean, nothing specifically about free agency. If you want to check out Droppin' Dimes, I do it every Wednesday at noon. You can watch live at youtube.com/Matt Knost, or pardon me, /Droppin' Dimes. Otherwise, just hit me up on Twitter at Matt Knost, and I post the links over there.
There you go. No, of course, Matt and I also have the Top 10 show every Tuesday. We drop it at midnight, Monday night, midnight. We drop it for you guys to enjoy. So when you wake up Tuesday morning, or for you late night fools to, kind of have that come across and have you guys enjoy it as well. Thanks to Matt for taking the time. You can follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. Please remember to subscribe to the channel down below. Hit that bell button, and also come and follow me on Twitch, The Outlaw Nation, all one word there as well. Oh, well, the Mr. Vaju says, congrats on getting Dinwiddie. John, take good care of him. He was my favorite net the past 3 to 4 years. Clutch as hell. I will miss him. Yeah, the East could be really fun now, Matt. A lot of teams have made some interesting moves in the East. There could be some nice battles for that 3 to 6 to 7 spot, which I think is great to see on the East side of things for sure. Oh, and one more thing. Timothy Williams says, guys, are you doing a watch along for Boomers versus USA today? Also, guys, I highly recommend you watch the Longley documentary that just aired, episode 1. All the main Bulls are featured. I sent out a tweet last night. I was going to send you this link today, Matt. Australia did a documentary on Luke Longley. It's about half an hour, the first episode. I was going to send you the link. It's free on YouTube to watch.
Cut out a Last Dance.
Yeah, so there's more there. Jordan's on it. Scotty's on it, and Phil is on it. Kerr's on it. A lot of people are on it talking about how he.
So when they taped Scotty's before he took a flamethrower to the world.
I think so. He looks weird. He's got the hair dangling and the glasses and all. Yeah, it's a weird look for Scottie Pippen of a man of age. So
he is taking an interesting turn over the past month.
It's true for sure. Old age. Anyway, all right, let's get on out of here. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. And please remember to share this video on your social media as well, and leave a comment and hit a like. All right, we'll talk to you next time for another brand new episode down the road of Game Time, when it comes back after its hiatus and the NFL is in full swing. Peace. Until then.